Hey guys, Adam, we are good to start in just about 1 minute if you're ready for that.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. And I'm just gonna, do you have the agenda pulled up?
I do, yeah.
Great. So when we're ready to start, we're streaming and we're good to go. So we'll just let you guide us.
Yeah,
Okay?
I'm gonna need some help.
We will help all you want.
Sounds good.
Okay. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just want to remind everybody so that you know we are streaming on YouTube so that others can see the meeting. Okay. Okay. And Adam.
We ready?
I think so.
So I am somewhat new to using Teams. It looks like as far as parent volunteers, it's myself, Bob, and Megan. Is there anyone else on? Like, is there a way to scroll to different pages?
You know, and it might be just sometimes you have to update. Mine will show up to 49 people at a time if I do a large group.
Okay.
And sometimes that takes updating the client of Teams if you download it on your computer. But we have Emily Williams here as a parent member, and Megan is here, and Adam is here, and you're going to have to say it because I just want to say Papa of 9 kids. So we have 4 on right now. And Dee has asked to be excused, right? And then as far as school members or employee members, we have Miss Sorensen from 6th grade, and then Brittany Grotus from our office, and Mr. Hansen, and myself.
Great. Sounds good.
Thanks.
So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. The first agenda item is the approval of the minutes from the previous community council meeting. I went to the website where those would normally be. Do those get posted to the school website after they've been approved? You're on mute, Sarah. We can't hear you, Sarah.
You're on mute, Sarah.
Well, you guys can't read my lips. I was just saying that's a good question. Maybe Mr. Hansen can help answer that because they're only draft minutes until they are officially approved. And so we may need to.
That's stated correctly. So yeah, so we can, we can try to, because we only meet once a month and we usually wait till the next month to approve the prior minutes. I don't know. I think theoretically we could try to post those minutes and then just let people know that they are a draft, that they have not been approved.
Okay. So the latest version of the notes is the CC draft notes 2020-10-1 in the file section.
And is
that right?
I believe so.
I believe that's correct. Let me just double check. So are you in general files?
Yeah.
And then I will quickly look. The minutes, under the minutes. Oh, I don't see anything in there in the general channel. Maybe it's under the discussion channel. That's what it is, yeah. So I believe you're on the correct file there.
Okay. And so what is the process of approval of meeting minutes? Do we need to go through them, or is it just a motion to approve?
Obviously, we don't want people to approve if they haven't had the chance to preview all of the notes to make sure that that everything was included that people would like to have included. So I guess the question is if people have had a chance to look at them or not, and if they haven't, then either somebody can offer to briefly summarize the notes verbally, or we can just provide a couple of minutes to let people look at them before we call for a motion to approve.
Are there people who have read through them? If not, we can just touch on the key highlights quickly.
I motion to review them.
Okay. Seconded. So I don't know if everyone knows where to go. It's in the files section. It's CC draft notes. Is there a way to share a screen?
Yes. There should be a little box with an arrow in it. Let me see.
Okay, share content.
Do you have that?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Great. So
nice job.
Getting better every day. So the key points here in the meeting minutes, it looks like the election of the committee chairperson, vice chair, and secretary. Key highlights is D being nominated is the chairperson, myself as the vice chair, and Joanna Sorensen nominated Sarah as the secretary. All of that was then confirmed. Any questions up through that point? Okay, Dan then gave a quick overview of the rules of conduct and talked about the board. The website was reviewed. So the school improvement plan review. So we reviewed the current goals, action plans, and breakdown of expenditures. Sarah, you were to post a condensed school improvement plan in the community council team site. Was that posted? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna add. I got kicked off. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure why.
Oh, no worries.
So I just barely came back in. What was the question? Maybe I can answer it.
So the question was, one of the items from the meeting minutes in item number 5 was Sarah will post the condensed school improvement plan in the community council teams.
I believe that we did in the general channel.
Okay.
I believe I posted it that night.
Okay, great.
Okay.
We then went over teams. Dee suggested an informal meeting to learn more about the Teams platform. I'm not sure if anything else came of that. And then the meeting was adjourned. Are there any questions or concerns from the meeting minutes from anyone? Okay, from my view, I think those meeting minutes accurately reflect what we spoke about. So I would move to approve those.
I second that.
Okay.
Will you just make sure that you say your name or that we know who's talking, so that Sarah, since you are the secretary, you're taking notes.
Not me. Nope. Bob Myers,
Bob
right?
Myers.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's true. In the secretary section, sorry, I kind of glossed over that. Sarah had been nominated, but ultimately Bob was voted for that role.
Right. I think we made the right choice.
I would second that.
Sounds good. Okay, so now the question is, am I going to be able to figure out how to stop sharing my screen here without hanging up? I think it's that one. Okay. Great. So the next item in the agenda is the new council members. So this one's a little bit vague. So Dan and Sarah, help me out here. Are there new council members to vote on, or are there open slots? What's the action item here?
So we didn't, I'll go ahead. Thanks, Sarah. We did not fill all of the seats that we had available when we conducted our election. And so when we have uncontested seats, parents are able to just come and take those seats, even though the election has passed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, yeah.
How many open seats are there?
Sarah, do you remember? Sorry.
I think the total number we can have is like, I'd have to go look at our rules of order and procedure that we had voted on a couple of years ago, but I think it's close to 12 or 13.
That's what I remember.
That's like parent members.
Yes.
So we could potentially have a very large council.
Yeah.
So looking in the rules of procedure under the council members, it says that it can have no more than 14 and no fewer than 5. So we can have up to 14. So are there parents on this call who are not community council members who would like to be?
Megan Morris, this is when you speak up. I believe Megan Morris. Megan Morris has reached out to Dee Evertson requesting to fill one of those seats.
Okay.
And I know that we don't have to vote, but I would be really excited for Megan to join the community council again and be part of that.
And Sarah, I'm not sure exactly what, if I'm on the council or if I'm just a guest. So just want to say, tell me where to report.
You are on the council. So everybody that has access to this meeting is considered a voting member of the council.
Gotcha.
And then the process is that if we have community members who would like to have a public comment and participate during a public comment time at the end of the meeting, that they can reach out to the chair or even to their community council member that they may know, and then you can facilitate with the chair to get a link to the meeting sent to that person, so that they can, if they would like to be able to speak during it. Otherwise, community members can view the meeting over YouTube streaming.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so if you're on this meeting, we are considering you part of or not just considering, you are a voting member of community council. And hopefully all of you have access to our community council team. And if at any point you don't, please reach out so that you can have access, because we are all, we're all meant to have access to the team. That's where we're going to communicate. Okay, thanks.
Got it. Thank you.
Sounds good. So Megan, if no comments, maybe we'll take that as negative consent that you're good to serve as a member.
I am more than happy to serve as a member.
Sounds great. Okay, I believe there's no one else on the line who's not listed currently under the community council member section. What's the process to add a member to the site?
Do you mean to this team, or?
No, I mean under the site itself, where it lists out the community council members. Is that something you guys can just take away?
Meaning on the school's website?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the school's website, we would just need to communicate with our web person. We have Mrs. Myers, who's our computer teacher, and then we also have Mrs. Johnson. She's a teacher. They help update things on our website. So we'll just get that information. And then as far as on the Land Trust website, I'll just go in and add Megan as a member.
Okay, great, sounds good. So I think we're good to go to the next agenda item, which is the school walkthrough by community council members. This has already occurred, correct?
Yes,
yes,
it already occurred.
So I was not able to make it. Is there someone on this call who wants to give us an update on that?
Jenny.
I can. Yeah.
Great.
Dee and I were able to participate in that. I have, let's see, what is she, 21, 22 years old. So, and she's my oldest. They've all gone through school there. So I was kind of going with the thought that there wasn't a lot that I was really going to learn or get out of it, but I was really wrong. The first thing I noticed that struck me was the sense of order that was there that I hadn't really seen so much in previous years. The classrooms, when you go in, everybody was doing, and we went in quite a few classrooms. So there were different groups doing different projects, with teacher led. There was kids working on their own. It was really impressive, actually. My experience has been kind of coming to a classroom, and it's been very chaotic. And it was very nice. There's a sense of teamwork that goes through Sarah and Dan and the teachers that is really nice to see. The teachers pulling off groups of kids and working individually with them was very a different thing that I hadn't really seen before. You usually just see the teacher at the front of the class, and then there's kids messing around because they don't get it, and there's causing that chaos that I was used to seeing. There was the seating in the classrooms was really cool. All the I don't know the term for it. What is it, Dan? The alternate.
Yeah, flexible seating.
Flexible. That was the word.
Yep.
Flexible seating was really cool. I think the kids really like that, from what I could tell. And I know with my daughter that's there, she loves switching around and sitting in the different places. Recess, we got to view recess. Recess was neat, with and the programs that they're going to initiate and have been doing with getting kids involved and keeping them, so kids aren't alone out there. Socially, it's a really neat thing. And then the lunchroom, the spacing, everything that they were doing as far as the lunchroom was concerned was really good. But overall, I think the sense of teamwork between all of them, and it really did feel like a different school, a different place than I was used to back then, back a while ago. So it was really neat. If anybody wants to do that, I would really recommend, if they have time, to do that again. It was a really neat thing to see. I was very impressed. Yeah.
Jenny, thank you for your kind words. We appreciate it. And we just wanted to let everybody know that we want to make school walkthroughs a more regular part of our school culture, as well as something that we want our community council members to participate in. The more we can get our community members to come in and see what we're doing, then I feel like the more they can understand the vision that we have for King Elementary. And at least we've done a fall. Honestly, we are happy to facilitate individual walkthroughs. So if community council members' schedules don't quite align, that's okay. But sometimes it's nice to come with somebody else, and you can talk about things that you're seeing and bounce ideas off of each other and stuff like that. So Sarah and I have talked about having at least a fall walkthrough date and a spring walkthrough date. However, I just wanted to say that anybody's welcome, anytime to come through. Just would love to have you give us a heads up, and that way we can try to orchestrate a schedule and have you go through. We love to showcase all the classrooms, but not just the classrooms, all facets of our school, the recess, the lunch. If we can try to see prep time teachers, just, all parts of the school to help everybody understand what's going on. So.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. That's good to hear that feedback. How many people were able to attend? Was it just yourself and Dee, or were there others as well?
Just Dee and I.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was really excited. He had a blast, I think. So it would have been nice to hear what he had to say too.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just get a quick summary from him, the next meeting that we have, because I think that he enjoyed what he saw as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially PE. I forgot to bring up PE, but he loved that.
That's because you want to get in there with those kids and get playing the game too. So it was right up his alley.
Yeah, finally get a leg up on the competition.
Yeah.
Not good at the local rec league in basketball, but maybe at the elementary I would be. Yeah, that sounds good. We should definitely organize that spring walkthrough, and maybe even one earlier than that. Maybe we'll make that an agenda item for next time, maybe to talk through that a little bit more and plan out a day. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next agenda item is to review the council rules of conduct. Did we not go over those? Or was that the rules of order that we went through last time? I think it was the rules of order. Where are the rules of conduct? Are those separate from that?
I believe they're on the community council website, on King's site.
So I am looking on there, and there are rules of order.
Maybe if I'll just, so Sarah, and I don't remember do we know who added this agenda item? Did we mean?
I believe it was added by D. And when I
okay.
read it, I thought it was the same thing that we had gone over last week. Last month.
Was it because he was recommending any changes, or what was the purpose?
I don't know. He didn't communicate with me on that. I just know that I had seen that was an agenda item that he had added.
So Adam, I do think that agenda item is referring to the rules of order and procedure, not something different.
Okay.
And so, we can make changes to that, although I'm pretty sure in our rules of order and procedure that it, recommends that we do that, just one time in the spring or whatever for the following year. We'll have to look at it pretty specifically. So,
what you just said rings a bell. I think that's what it was, is we touched on the rules of order last time and kind of went through them. But that question was raised by D of, well, do we need to review them for updates? So maybe that's what the agenda item here is. So with that as the agenda item, unless anyone remembers differently, maybe we just raise it as that question. Are there any rules of order or rules of procedure that we think need to be reviewed and or changed? I'm going to take a wild guess and say that nobody read through them.
I think they're fine.
Mr. Wennett, I'm wondering if we table that until next time when we've all had a chance to look through it, and then D is also here to clarify what he intended.
Right. I agree with that, because I do think that D may have had some ideas, but because he's not here to share those, I think that maybe we should table that conversation.
Could we just insert maybe a discussion about maybe a time or a day change? Because that's why D can't be here, because his schooling just changed and his new class runs from 5:30 to 7 on Thursday nights. So going forward, I don't know that he'll be available in December at this time either. So maybe we use this time that was planned for that agenda item really quickly to discuss whether or not people are available and flexible to change to a new meeting time, because he is the chair, and unfortunately if he's not able to be here, it makes it a lot harder. Although Adam's doing a fantastic job, it is harder for us to go ahead and function that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk through that. For me, with this work from home stuff due to COVID, it's easy for me to be on a little bit earlier. If later on in the school year, things go back to normal, which, let's be honest, at this point, it doesn't seem like they're going to, at least not for the rest of this school year. I can attend potentially as early as like 4:30, potentially even 4. I think for most of those who are school employees, anytime essentially after school could work, I would imagine. Correct me if that's not right.
Yeah, that's correct. Other community councils that I participated on, sometimes they do just typically meet like right after school at 4 p.m.
Okay, so I mean, Brittany, Bob, Megan, Melissa, Jenny, what are times that would work for you guys?
6 o'clock is ideal for me, just because then I have a chance to get home, get my kids started on their school, and be able to feed them before I have to get onto a call.
I'm in a similar boat. I get off at 5 and can get home and then log in. But if you need to move it to earlier, I can make arrangements to do that too. So I can be flexible.
In trying to, Sarah, sorry to interrupt. Is Dee's schedule, Sarah, is Dee's schedule is such that if we change the day of the week that we had it, that we could maintain a time, or because we don't have to do it on a Thursday, but did he specify to you?
All I know is that the only thing I'm reading is the posts that were on the channel in the discussion of our community council channel. So I don't know really anything else. So maybe we don't need to take a vote on it right now to reschedule, but perhaps we need to set a time for all of us to touch base by, so that we can touch base with Dee and make, like, even if it's by the end of next week, so that we can schedule the next ones coming up. Because again, I guess, although I wanted to talk about it, I realize now it's kind of hard because we also don't know what the rest of Dee's schedule looks like.
Sure. And I think the most important thing is just that that we just notify the community, in the proper amount of time of when the meeting has changed, so that people can make adjustments if they're wanting to attend, participate or whatever. So just like Sarah said, maybe let's table the conversation. We can try to communicate and get the decision made in the next week. And that way that's plenty of time before our next community council meeting, so that people have time to adjust.
Does that need to be, if we're changing the time, does that need to be something that we vote on in a public meeting? Or it's just as long as we communicate it with the community in a timely manner?
I think as long as we communicate, I don't know that the vote needs to be taken publicly, as long as we just communicate, because we're all, we're basically determining when we can all meet together. I think the important thing is that the agenda is posted beforehand like it's supposed to, and that parents have adequate notice of when the meeting is.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The only thing in the rules of procedure that mention the time is that the agenda will include the date, time, and location of the meeting. So there's not any specific rules around scheduling the meeting itself.
Okay, so
that's how I understand it.
Could we aim to decide on a date and time for our December meeting by the end of next week, which is
the 13th? Yeah,
the 13th. Could we add that maybe in our minutes, and then we can do that through our team, through our community council team?
Yes, and obviously for the sake of ease of scheduling, I think that's why we resort to trying to have a consistent day of the month that we try to meet, but there's not like a rule that says that we have to do that. So we just need to make sure that we're notifying people, of when the next meeting, meeting it with the time and the date and everything is. So.
Okay, sounds good. So let's coordinate that offline. The next agenda item is the school improvement plan. Looking in the files section here, I do not see it. What's the plan to go through that?
So we did have the summary file that we've put into the files.
Oh,
I do know that
one.
Go ahead.
It says King Trust Land expenditure summary page.
So that's kind of a homemade, super condensed, version of the file that we're trying to share. Is Jennifer? Okay, Jennifer is on here. I know Jennifer Clough, our math coach, has been kind of waiting, so we wanted to just go ahead and jump into at least one of our goals that we can kind of report on a little bit. So Jennifer, are you there?
I'm here. Do you need me to show my video?
Only if you feel comfortable. We like your,
I'm here.
There you are. Hey, yeah.
I'm going to share a PowerPoint, and I'm going to share some information. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. This is my 3rd year at King. I started with Sarah, and because of conflicts, I haven't been able to attend community council. I usually work on Thursday evenings, but that's changed for this semester. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I'm used to sharing it with Zoom, so this will be entertaining. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is just a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. And just where we're showing BOI stands for beginning of year. And this is specific to the Math School Improvement Plan. Okay, our goal this year is 70% of students will demonstrate proficiency, 85% or higher on one determined DESK priority standard. And DESK stands for Davis Essential Skills and Knowledge. And the diagnostics for the benchmark were built by grade level teams and myself.
Can you talk about, sorry to interrupt you, can you talk about what priority standards are, or are you going to?
I am going to, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Could you say again what DESK stands for?
Davis Essential Skills and Knowledge. So every single curricular area has DESK standards. But that's what that's what we have in Davis School District. That's what that stands for. So it's not just some word out there. Okay. Yeah. So our key points: math is measured by mastery and not growth. And these are grade level standards that would be expected to be met by the end of the school year. So as we're going through this, we're going to give this assessment 3 times throughout the year. We did give it in October. Our next scheduled time is in January, and the last one will be March 15th through the 19th. And then we will report out on where we're at. And it's at that end of year that we expect to have met our goal. Each grade level is analyzing the data during their PLCs. And then we're looking at what trends, how can we move students, what content, and how it will be implemented, and progress monitoring in between these dates. Okay, so what are priority standards? Priority standards, these are the most essential in the content grade level, and they highlight the major ideas of the grade level. Those are priority standards, and I'm going to, and each grade level has a group of 3 or 4. Depending upon the grade level, and we chose one of those 3 or 4. So I'm going to go through what those are for each of the grade levels so that you can see what we're talking about. I'm going to start with kindergarten. So in kindergarten, we focused on counting and cardinality. And those 3 bullet points there are the 3 that focus on it. So, and the KCC 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, those correspond to the Utah State Core Standards. That stands for kindergarten, counting, and cardinality. That's the strand. And then standards 1, 2, and 3. And then 4, 5, and 6, 7. So the students, we expect them to know the names to 20 and the counting sequence to 100. They need to be able to count and tell the number of objects and identify and compare quantities, greater than, less than, 1 less, 1 more, and so forth. Cardinality means that if I see 7 objects and I count them with my finger, then I know that the last number said is the amount that I have. That's what cardinality is.
I'm glad you explained that because I was about to ask.
Yeah, I had to look that up myself when I first started this job. Okay, first grade, we're looking at representing and solving problems involving addition and subtraction. In first grade, our focus is on addition and subtraction within 20, and we really focus on strategies. That's the first one. OA stands for operations and algebraic thinking. We're also looking at the properties between addition and subtraction, and it is not just like the symbol 3 plus 5. We're also looking at story problems where they may know how much they start with. So I have 3 ants on the blanket, some more came over, and now I have 5 ants. So problems like that, all different types of problems. We're looking at the properties of addition and subtraction and how they relate to each other, as well as we would like them to be able to be fluent in their addition and subtraction within 10 by the end of the year. And we also want them to know what the equal sign means. So it doesn't matter if the answer's on the left or the right, but we want them to be comfortable with that the left side and the right side must be the same. Okay. Any questions on first grade? Second grade, understand and use place value, and NBT stands for numbers in base 10. And so we're looking at extending the understanding of base 10 notation to the thousands place. In first grade, we go to the tens place. We're going to fluently add and subtract within 100, and then add within 1,000, and understand that when adding and subtracting 3-digit numbers, we may or may not have to decompose or compose tens and hundreds. And in the old vernacular, that's borrowing and carrying, if you will. That comes under that. Okay. In third grade, our focus is representing and understanding multiplication and division. And OA is, again, operations and algebraic thinking. And I would say that not only is this a priority standard, but this is a pretty, just like counting and cardinality in kindergarten, this multiplication division is pretty hefty. But we're doing all the different things with multiplication with single digit factors. So like 7 times 6, 5 times 3, 0 times 8, all of those that are within 100, with our answers within 100. And so any representation that we have of that, equal groups, number lines, all those different things are showing up. And we would like them to know at the end of grade 3 from memory all the products of 2 one-digit numbers. Okay. Fourth grade, we're going to continue with multiplication division, and they have their priority standard actually has standards from operations and algebraic thinking as well as numbers in base 10. And multiplication is comparison. So I have 5 times as many, or Johnny has 5 times as many as June. How much do they have all together? Those would be examples of comparison problems. Strategies based on place value. And we multiply 4-digit numbers by 1-digit numbers and 2 2-digit numbers. And then we're also going to relate multiplication and division with the same idea. 4-digit dividends, that's the number under the bar, and the 1-digit divisor, that's the number out front. So that's what we're doing in 4th grade. In 5th grade, we're going to continue multiplication division, and we're headed into the standard algorithm for multiplication. We're also going to extend our understanding of division, and we then take it into decimals. So 5th grade is the first place where we really operate on decimals heavily, and they're going to spend their time. This is one of their key areas. And then 6th grade, we're headed into rational numbers, and 6th grade is the first piece here. They're going to do add, subtract, multiply, and divide with all types of rational numbers that are positive, or excuse me, non-negative, because zero's in there too. But that's multi-digit decimals. And we're also going to divide fractions. And not only do they need to know how to, the algorithm for division of fractions, which is what we build to, but they need to be able to conceptually represent the division of fractions and understand that in a story problem and the different types of division. And the second piece is we're looking at integers and negative rational numbers and really a definition of what those are. And NS stands for number systems. So those are the standards, that the priority standards by grade level that these assessments are focused on and that we're taking data on. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Is a rational number the same thing as an integer, like a non-fractional number? What does that mean?
So an integer are positive and negative whole numbers, like -5, -6, 1, 50, 1,000. Rational numbers are fractions, decimals that terminate, like 1.5, -3, -3.5. So all integers are rational numbers.
Okay.
Rational numbers can also be fractions or like 0.11111. That keeps
And
going
so
on.
they're in 6th grade, they're doing things like 3.5 times 2.5, stuff like that.
That would be the first standard. Yes, they are doing things like that. The second standard is, what does negative 3.5 mean? Where would that be on a number line? So the second one is really about the definition and vocabulary of those signed numbers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Stay with the rational numbers, so we don't go into pi.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, do you want to kind of go into, or maybe you're going to, about why we're doing this and why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
Yes.
So the focus of this was to get a more full-bodied understanding, and it is just a glimpse of what we're doing in mathematics and the different grade levels, but a full-bodied understanding of where the students are going. And so we have some data to show that we are making progress and we're bringing the students along and helping them learn. That was the purpose of this.
Right, and I can add to that having each grade level commit to the priority standard. That I feel like is that teamwork that Jenny was talking about earlier, that when the entire grade level was committed to trying to help all kids that are at our school understand a specific standard. And so with Jennifer, each team kind of determined, hey, this is our priority standard that we want to focus on. And that's why we have created 3 assessments to give our kids to figure out where they are so that we can really target, providing interventions to kids to help them make sure they know this priority standard before they leave, their grade level. So that, we can say, hey, whatever 3rd grade's priority standard is, they're going to spend time and intervention time, and they're going to do their darndest to make sure that every 3rd grade kid has that priority standard down. And so I'm excited about the formative data that we get along the way, because when we have that formative data, it can guide our instruction. And so our next assessment is in January. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to do another assessment in January. And so we're excited to hopefully talk about the growth that we've made. And, teachers know they've committed to the priority standard. They know that we're measuring the priority standard. And so they're going to be working hard with their kids during intervention time to try to make sure that their kids are making progress and improving in that area. So that's something exciting that we haven't. This is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, that we have done formative math assessments during the school year to try to give our teachers feedback during the year when they can actually make changes to their instruction. The problem with just doing summative assessments is that the school year is over and we don't have any more time to make adjustments to our instruction. And so that's why we're excited about these assessments and hope that it can be a benefit to our teachers.
Well, just to speak to that, last year we just did fluency assessments. So this is really to get more at all of the pillars of mathematics and not just a very tiny piece. And another piece of information is you're looking at your student's report card when they come home or when it's mailed to you. These priority standards are the only things, and the mathematical practice standards, that will be reported out in your report card this year. That's new this year as well. So we're only targeting 1 for each grade level specifically, but the teachers are teaching all of them.
Okay, great. And so it's going to be hard to compare metrics year over year, if I'm understanding that correctly. But now we'll be able to do like October to mid-year to end of year. Are those initial metrics already gathered from October? And do you have a kind of initial view of like the percentages of students who are currently meeting those standards and kind of what goals and expectations are for the rest of the year? Or is that
the data's been gathered. It's in the process of analysis. And again, many of these standards will not be completely taught until the end of the year, until March, because they do a lot of one of our last people that worked there, distributive practice, where we come back to the topic and we look at it again from a different angle. So there's a lot of instruction that's attached to these, and it cycles through the year.
But the teachers can use that data to guide their instruction, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's the big component, that even though they may not have covered some things yet, I always make this analogy, so hopefully this will make sense to you, that when we gather student data before we teach, then we're driving with the headlights on. But when we don't gather data before we teach students, then we're driving in the dark. And we don't want our teachers teaching and not knowing what our kids need to learn. We want them to know before they start teaching what our kids need to learn. And so if we don't ever gather that information ahead of time, then we're kind of teaching in the dark.
Mm-hmm. But that analysis that Dan is talking about will be taking place in the PLCs in the coming month over that data.
Cool.
I have a quick question. This is Megan. From what I understand with our parent-teacher conference meeting that we had with our teacher, she mentioned that there was an assessment done with particularly 6th grade, and that they were going to be retaking that. Is there a way as a parent for us to access that information?
Okay, so the response to your question, the assessment is secure, but we can talk, we would be more than happy to share with you the specific areas that your student needs to work on.
Okay.
But we could give you an example of types of problems that would fit that standard.
Okay.
But the assessment itself is secured.
So we're just trying to make sure that our that our data remains valid and reliable, and so that's why we're not giving the benchmark assessments out, so that doesn't impact how kids perform.
Right. I'm just curious to see where our students are today versus the standards that they were taught from the previous year, to see the growth and the understanding of the subject.
So as we gather data throughout the year, we'll be providing that to you guys on how we're doing in progress towards that goal. And then if you want specific data, about your child, then you can talk to your child's teacher about that.
Perfect.
This is Joanna. Megan, was she talking about that math one specifically, or could she have been talking about their reading inventory? We do that in 6th grade also a few times throughout the year.
We had the reading inventory, but we didn't have the math portion.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So will we see some of those stats or like some of the metrics over time in a later community council meeting? Is that the plan?
Yes, the plan is to show you the change from beginning of year to middle of year in February, or the meeting directly following the middle of year assessment.
Okay, sounds good. This has been a helpful overview. Any other questions or comments on this one? So it's helpful to see the math. In my recollection from last year's community council meetings, it seems like another key focus area for the school was in the subject of reading. And in particular, I think that was part of the actual development plan for this year as well, and where some of the funds were actually allocated to make an investment. Is there any sort of like metrics or anything like that we could maybe cover in a future community council meeting specific to the reading standards and such?
Yeah, and so we are using Acadience, I believe, as our measure. And the cool thing about this year is that we're actually measuring cohort data. And so we are going to be able to show, if our kids are growing at the same rate that they did the prior year, if that makes sense.
So it's because kids in 3rd grade this year versus them in 2nd grade last year.
You are correct. It is a cohort goal, because so we've looked at what type of growth the cohort was able to achieve, and we're obviously looking at trying to maintain that growth, if not improve the growth. And so that is what the only grade level that we can't do that on is kindergarten, because kindergarten doesn't have a measurement before they come to us. So so kindergarten. So if you look at our school improvement plan, 1st grade through 6th, I believe, has a cohort reading goal, and then kindergarten does not have a cohort reading goal. We made a separate goal for kindergarten.
Right. Yeah.
And the middle of year benchmark is in January again, and so we would love to talk about where we the growth that we achieve from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year as we get that data.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's definitely something I'd be interested in seeing. I'm not sure if any of the other parent volunteers have any thoughts on that.
I'd be interested in seeing it as well.
I think it will be great to look at. I think, interestingly enough, I know that I was watching the board meeting last month, not this month, I believe, and they shared some of the Acadience data and what it looked like, and it was showing clearly that the soft closures did have an effect on student achievement in that area and their growth. So based on our beginning of the year, through the whole district, the beginning of the year assessment. Dan,
but to clarify that, I believe that was proficiency data, correct, Sarah?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's just so there's a difference obviously between growth data and proficiency data. So we know that the soft closure definitely had an impact on the levels of proficiency, but good teaching produces good growth. And so that's why we want to be growth focused. To me, growth tells the whole story. It allows kids that are behind to be celebrated for the difference that they make. And even if they're not proficient, it doesn't matter to us if they're growing. If they're growing in an average or above average way, then we want to be proud of the success that they're having.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So the next time that we'll have that data, especially to be able to look at growth, because a lot of that growth we look at beginning of the year to middle of the year to end of year. And the next time that we'll have that data is I believe the assessment is given mid to end January. So it's possible that we could have it for our February meeting and look at that in February.
Okay, that sounds good. And these questions were just kind of a natural extension of reviewing what we talked about in the previous agenda item. And but actually looking at the agenda, the last point is council improvement plans for future meetings. So ended up working out well. So it sounds like we'll go over that in early or maybe February, March. Potentially also touch again on the math standards with Jennifer around that same time frame. So I believe, unless anyone has any further comments around those plans for future meetings, I believe that concludes our agenda. Just a high-level question. So essentially what this group is going to need to determine is where to allocate the trust money for next school year. What do the timeframes look like around that, Mr. Hanson or Mrs. Burke?
So we typically, and one thing that we kind of, well, actually, and maybe even I'm remembering one other thing, Sarah, that I wanted to talk about, but we have scheduled to meet once a month. But I want everybody to understand that we can meet more than that if we need to. The typical timeline, it gets a little crazy once you get past January. We typically finalize land trust plans near the end of March. And so our March meeting dates are extremely important. You'll notice that a lot of our goals, they don't have end of year data because we were already supposed to have planned the following year before the end of the school year. And so we typically have to make decisions on allocating funds based off of data that we have during the middle of the school year. And so, timeline would be, January, we still don't have some assessment data. February, we should. So February, we should have assessment data on most of our goals. And so, but one meeting may not be enough to digest the data and then make sure that we have adequate time. One thing that Dee had mentioned, and so the meetings, we have the ability to do workshops where we meet informally, so it's not a public meeting. But we have our community council members come, and in those workshops, we can look at information and we can receive training and other things like that. And so I think that we should, I think that we should be trying to increase the amount of times that we meet so that we don't feel so rushed, and so that because when we meet in a formal community council, that's when we're, voting on, sometimes it feels like the time for planning has passed when we're meeting here in person. And so I don't want to feel like that. I don't want anybody else to feel like that. And so I just think that maybe we need to try to do a better job of, getting information and having discussions and meeting informally, like in a workshop setting. And that's the term that the school board uses when they meet as a school board, but it's not a public meeting.
Okay. So maybe as next steps in our next community council meeting, we could talk through potentially some of those timeframes and agree to the frequency and timing of some of those workshops. But yeah, I'd agree. It seems like, I was unable to attend the last few meetings last year, so I think I missed that part of it. But yeah, like as of, January, I don't think we'd even started talking through like the plan for the money. So yeah, I can see the rush. So yeah, maybe that's an agenda item for next time. Is number one, start brainstorming ideas around how to allocate the money, and then number two, maybe come up with some, initial plans for those workshops.
Right.
That is something. Sorry, I'll just interject for a second. That we'd also like to do, even starting next meeting, is building understanding and capacity about what that money can be spent on, because there's rules behind that as well. And so it'd be good really to help all of us build an understanding of how can we spend that money so that we can start looking at those things. So that could be a possible thing to add to the December agenda of just let's have a little bit of information on what this money can be allocated to.
So one thing that I would recommend is that we upload the file of appropriate expenditures to our teams, because I hate to be the one to burst people's bubbles when they have ideas. I don't like telling people that we can't do something, but there are rules and laws about how we can spend the money. And so more often than not, a parent may approach me and say, hey, let's spend our money on this. And then I'll have to say, unfortunately, we can't spend that money in that way. And so the key is to be able to find money, but you have to find money that's flexible and that is, it's legal to spend the money on certain things. And so you just have to be strategic about what money you use for what. Okay, and you'll upload that to the team site? Yeah, because that's understanding that information is pretty crucial to any sort of planning. Because if you understand those parameters, up front, then that can help people understand what we can do and what we can't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a hard stop. I need to leave, so.
That's okay.
I do too.
So
I think we're at the end of the agenda, so, or go ahead.
Yes, I think someone just needs to motion to end the meeting. Right.
Motion to end the meeting.
And I second.
Okay, sounds great. Just one last point. We've talked through a lot of things. Dee's not here. Bob, are you sending out meeting minutes on the back of this? And I can't hear you. You're on mute, Bob. Still can't hear you.
You still can't hear you. Sorry, Bob.
Nope.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, now we can. We could hear you for a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send out a draft in the next couple of days of the meetings.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Great.
Okay.
And if you just go ahead and post that in the Teams, then I can help you mention it in the chat so that it notifies everybody in there.
Sure.
Great. And then did we agree that we need to go ahead and put those draft minutes up on the website and just call them draft minutes until they're approved? What was the decision on that?
I think that was just me not knowing where to find them. I think as long as everyone here knows that they'll be available in Teams, that's fine, and we can just post them after they're approved.
Okay, sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay,
thank you.
cool. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.